The princess who listened to the wind, Princess Elara, lived in a castle that sparkled like a sugar cube under the sun. Her rooms were filled with toys that chimed, dolls with silk gowns, and books with pictures so bright they seemed to dance. Yet Elara often felt quiet inside. While other children laughed loudly in the grand halls, Elara preferred the hush of the high tower window, watching clouds shapeshift into dragons and sailing ships. One blustery afternoon, the wind didn't just whistle past the tower, it spoke. Not in words exactly, but in a sigh that tugged at her hair and whispered secrets only she seemed to hear. For lo, it seemed to sigh, rustling the velvet curtains. Faloba Blue, intrigued, Elara slipped away from her nursemaid, her soft slippers silent on the stone stairs. She followed the wind's playful tug, down, past the bustling kitchens smelling of cinnamon, past the stables where horses snorted greetings, and out through a small, forgotten gate into the wild meadow beyond the castle walls. The wind danced ahead, swirling fallen leaves into tiny whirlwinds. It led her to the edge of the whispering woods, where ancient trees stood like wise, mossy giants. There, nestled in the roots of the oldest oak, sat a tiny creature. It wasn't a squirrel or a rabbit. It was smaller than Elara's hand, with fur like spun moonlight and eyes like polished riverstones. One delicate wing was bent awkwardly. Oh, Elara gasped, kneeling softly in the moss. "Are you hurt?" The creature blinked up at her, trembling. A faint, musical chirp escaped it. So soft, it was almost lost in the rustling leaves. The wind sighed again, swirling gently around them, as if urging Elara closer. "I'm Elara," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the breeze. "Can I help?" She remembered the gentle way the castle healer mended broken teacups with special glue. Carefully, slowly, she reached into the pocket of her dress. She always carried a clean handkerchief embroidered with forget-me-nots. Gently, oh so gently, she scooped the tiny creature onto the soft cloth. It didn't flinch. It seemed to trust her quiet hands. Back in her sunlit room, Elara became a tiny healer. She found a smooth, shallow seashell for a bed, lined it with thistledown. She dripped cool water from a thimble onto a petal for the creature to sip. She held her breath as she carefully straightened the bent wing, binding it with a single, impossibly fine thread from her embroidery kit. The creature watched her with its deep, calm eyes, its tiny chest rising and falling. Days turned into a week. Elara visited her secret patient every chance she got, bringing crumbs of honey cake and drops of dew. She named him Pip. She didn't tell anyone, not even her nursemaid. This was her quiet secret, shared only with the wind that sometimes sighed contentedly outside her window. One morning, Pip's wing was strong. He fluttered his moonlight fur, testing it. He chirped a bright, clear note that sounded like tiny bells. Then, with a joyful leap, he zipped around Elara's room, a blur of silver light, before landing softly on her shoulder. He nuzzled her cheek with his cool nose. That afternoon, Pip led Elara back to the Whispering Woods, deep in the heart of the trees, where sunlight dappled the forest floor like gold coins. Pip flew to a cluster of glowing blue flowers Elara had never seen before. They pulsed with a soft light, and their scent was like cool water and starlight. Pip chirped happily, dipping his nose into one. The blue flowers, Elara breathed, remembering the wind's first whisper. You led me to them. Pip chirped again, then zipped back to Elara, landing on her outstretched finger. He looked at her, then back at the flowers, then gave a little hop towards the castle path. He wanted her to show someone. Elara understood. She carefully gathered a few of the luminous blue blooms, cradling them in her handkerchief. She ran back to the castle, not with loud excitement, but with a quiet urgency that made the guards step aside without a word. She found the king and queen in the solar, looking weary. A terrible sickness had spread through the village, and the castle healers were frantic. The usual remedies weren't working. Look, Elara said, her voice clear and calm. She held out the glowing flowers. Pip showed me. The wind led me. The chief healer examined the flowers, his eyes widening. Moon petals, rare as starlight. They hold the cure for the fever. He rushed to prepare a potion. Within days, the village was healing. The king and queen looked at their quiet daughter with new wonder. How did you know Elara? The queen asked, hugging her close. Elara smiled, feeling Pip's tiny weight on her shoulder, invisible to everyone else. I listened, she said simply. I listened to the wind and to the quiet things that need help. From then on, Princess Elara was still quiet, but her quietness was different. It wasn't empty. It was full of listening. She walked the meadows and woods, not just as a princess, but as a friend to the small, the hidden, and the whispering wind. And sometimes, if you stood very still near the old oak tree, you might see a flash of moonlight fur and hear a tiny, grateful chirp on the breeze. A secret shared between a princess who listened and the magic that bloomed when she did.